Despite everything, Carl remained the acknowledged gaffer of this group, and as he swerved off the path along one of the lynchets dividing the rips, the other 8 followed suit, so that the whole party were walking abreast, following the bands of Wheatie as they rolled up the rise. Carl remembered how this ground had been in bud-out, each rip mounded with a mixture of moto dung, seaweed, bird shit and roof straw. The motos had deftly laid their own fresh dung, but the other ingredients had to be dug from the byres, scraped from the rocks, and gathered from the shore by the older girls and au pairs. Next, the mummies laboriously dragged truckle after truckle of the mixture up from the manor, before spreading and digging it into the earth with their mattocks. There were no wheels on Ham, save for symbols of them, and therefore no cars or vans either, so the Hampstead women tilled the long rips themselves, a team of 6 yoked to the island's sole plough, with its heavy irony share. Now the ripening Wheatie stood as high as his knees, and it looked as if it would be a good crop this year. Not that Carl would necessarily be there to see the mummies grind it under the autumn fog lamp, their bare breasts nuzzling the hot stone of their querns as they bent sweatily to the graft. "Where to, Gov?" said Billy Broody, catching Carl's eye as they reached the lynchet bordering the next rip, and together stepped over it. "To New London," Carl replied. "Where to, Gov?" Sam Broody chipped in, and his brother Billy chimed up, "To New London." Then Gary Eddens uttered the salutation, and Pete Bullock made the response, and so it went along the line. Between them, the 9 lads represented all the 6 families of Ham, the Broodies, Funches, Eddens, Bullocks, Ridmans, and Devushes. Good, solid, English names, all from the book, all established on Ham from time out of mind, as rooted as smoothbark and crinkle leaf. At the top of the slope, the land formed a sharp ridge, which fell away in narrow terraces to the waters of Hell Bay. On a knoll, on the far side of the water, stood one of the 5 old round towers the Hampsters called Giant's Gaffs, foglight flashing from its chipped wall. Carl's companions, having reached the edge of the home field, followed the dyke up to the lane, then walked south along it for 300 paces to where a stand of pines guarded the moto wallows. Carl parted from the group and took one of the terraces that curled round the bay to the foot of the tower. Here, in the Crete rubble, a few dwarfish apple trees had taken root. He found a level flag and sat down. Twigs stubbed him through his coarse T-shirt. Brown and white butterflies flip-flopped over a stand of fireweed. Bees came doodling down from the bank of pricklebush that rose up, barring the way to the forbidden zone. Carl tracked the sticky-arse stopovers as they wavered down to the water's edge, where squish-prims, drive-eyes, and heaps of other blooms grew between the hefty, hairy stalks of the blisterweed. A stone's throw into the bay, the submarine reef of seaweed and daveworks eddied and swirled in the sluggish swell. Carl could see the bright red shells of the crabs that teemed on the reef, and in the muddy shallows of the lagoon little gangs of rusty sprats flickered. Carl leaned his head against a bar of old irony and stared at the delicate tracery of lichen that covered the Crete at his feet. Living on dead, dead on deader. A low, clattering buzz roused him, and peering at one of the apple trees, he saw that its trunk was mobbed with a dense cluster of golden flies, which spread and agitated their wings, the better to suck up the big-watt rays of the now fully risen fog lamp. To leave all of this? How would it be possible, this life-mummy that cuddled him so? Carl had been to this spot maybe 2 or 3 times with Sally Broody, and that was forbidden. They'd get a cuff from their daddies and a bigger clump from the driver if they were found out. The last time she'd whipped off her cloaky thing and wound it around her pretty ginger head like a turban. As she bent low